Hi there. I wanted to talk about visual stimming today. A lot of parents tell me that their kids take things and they are stimming with their threads and wires and anything, that comes to their hand. Like they're just stimming or they're just here. Or if there's nothing, they use their fingers. So, this is what parents come to me and they talk to me about. Before I begin, welcome to my channel. I'm Reena Singh. I'm an occupational therapist. And after working for 24 years, these are some of the things that I wanted to share with you about visual stimming. And why do kids do that? So that's what I wanted to talk about. So when I started working, I was mainly focusing on vestibular, proprioceptive, and tactile. Visual system was not so much that I worked upon. So a girl, when she came to me and she would have her hair like this, she used to be like this at all times, like everywhere like this. And I used to wonder why she does this, why she keeps her hair like on top of her face. And that is what led me into learning more about visual system. And I kind of, you know, got into it so much that I really, really empowered myself. And those are some things that I wanted to share with you. Before I go ahead, I know a lot of kids who look like this, from a peripheral vision, that kind. So that was also something that I was like, oh, they're flapping, they're using those wiry kind of a things, or they'll take something like a pen, they're like fidgeting with it, something, they're like shaking it at all the times. And the more I got into it, the more I realized that the base, the vestibular, so our vestibular system is here. So the vestibular, visual, auditory, the three systems, they work together, they always work together. My neck is like the tripod, like right now when I'm recording this for you, I have this is the camera, which are my eyes. And if you see this, if you can see the background shaking, so if the tripod is shaky, then the eyes are going to be shaky. What do I mean by that? When the neck muscles, they are like, a lot of kids are like this, there's not much strength in their neck muscles. So when a baby is just 3 months old, they're like coming on their tummy and they get their head up against gravity, and that's how they learn to develop the strength in the muscles of the neck. And they learn to what is called as co-contract, both the muscle groups, this and this, they learn to work together so that the head and neck is stable. So if the neck is not stable, then the eyes won't get a stable visual field. Imagine if I turn like this, the world doesn't shift with me. The world stays like that. I turn like this, the world stays like that. It doesn't keep shifting. But if my neck muscles are not strong enough, if my core is not strong enough, I won't have a stable visual field. The things would keep moving. So the first thing is that I work on the postural reflexes. How do I work on postural reflexes? To begin with, I can give you some basic examples. If a child lies down on a swing on the tummy, okay, and the child is swinging on the tummy, even when your head is, if this is the head of the child, and if the child is swinging, and if the head is down, but if the child tries to keep his head up, not by prompt, but on his own, and the child is swinging, gravity is pulling the head down, but the child is able to keep the head up, that itself starts to work on the muscles of the neck. So, working on activities where the child is lying prone, that is on tummy, okay, is what I would. There are many, many, many things, but these are simple things that you can get started with. So, I would work on the tone of the neck muscles, the strength of the neck muscles, strength of the core. I would work on integrating the Moro and the fear paralysis reflex. Moro reflex, when it is present, the visual system is like, I'm like in fight flight, what's that, what's this, what's this, what's this, what's this, what's this, and it appears that the child is getting too distracted, but actually the visual system is getting bombarded with a lot of information that's coming, and then the child will use something to kind of, like, I focus on this pen because this is more comfortable. I can control it, and the amount of information that keeps coming is something that I can't control. So that's something that the child does. So what are the things that I can do, to work on Moro reflex? What are the things that I can do work on fear paralysis reflex? A lot of rhythmic movements help. A lot of reflex integration programs, they need to be followed under the guidance of a therapist, because when you go to integrate these reflexes, there is a lot of disorganization which comes before reorganization. So if it is just done, and if you land up into disorganization, which you would, I mean, every time you work on integrating a reflex, there would be disorganization. Moro is a very strong reflex. So the disorganization is quite a lot. So that is one thing. So working on the core strength, working on the postural muscles, working on integrating the fear paralysis and the um, moro reflex. These are the three things that I would work upon. What is the fourth thing? Now, many parents also tell me that their child gives them eye contact, learns well when it's a small place. But if it's a big place, so if I'm in a mall or if I'm in a classroom, if I'm in a food court, if I'm in a big open space where there's a lot of other sensory information that's flooding and it's overwhelming, it gets difficult for a child to use the eyes for the purpose of function, for whatever the purpose is. What do I do in such a case? So, when a child is getting uncomfortable or disoriented or disorganized in a bigger setup, it is the perception of space. Is the child able to perceive space? And if the child is not able to perceive space or understand the three-dimensional space around, then using therapeutic listening is something that really helps. Therapeutic listening, something like a space related music. Again, a therapist can guide you on what to do, because whenever we do a space related music, yes, there will be an initial disorganization before reorganization. So, core strength, then Moro, fear paralysis reflex, working on the tone, okay, and then comes what I just told you, the music, the space music. What else pointer I've written down? I've written about the astronaut program. So there's a program developed by Sheila Frick and Mary Carver, and that's called the vestibular visual auditory triad, because the vestibular, visual, and the auditory system works together. So when you do this protocol with your child, you're stimulating all the vestibular receptors in the right way, and you're stimulating them, enough so that the stimulation then, the vestibular input stimulates the visual system. That's what we do. Now, some of them believe that astronaut program is just about rotation, but it's about rotation and also linear activation. So a lot of activities before you add up the entire astronaut thing would be simply something like, holding a ball and then doing something like a pencil roll, just lying down and rolling, that could be an activity. Would be simply sitting on a swing, on a chair like this, and doing something like a circle on the chair, spinning on the chair, say 10 rounds, pause, and then the other way around 10, and then pause. So these are like preparation, holding a ball, passing the ball, where my head goes up, my head goes down, my head goes. These are the kinds of activities which will stimulate the vestibular system, and thus they'll also stimulate the visual system. A complete astronaut protocol can be done when you are working with a therapist. I have a detailed masterclass called Vestibular Visual Auditory. You could refer to that. It has a lot of ideas on how you can work. So that is another thing that helps. Okay. Then I wanted to also talk about, so a lot of times, when a child is having difficulties with reading and writing, because copying from a board, looking down, copying from a board, looking down also requires eyes. Reading requires eyes. Reading with comprehension will happen when reading becomes automatic. So these are some functions which also get affected when the visual system is not working in its the way it is meant to work. So in that case, what do I do is, I need to a lot of people do what is called as vision therapy. There are a lot of eye exercises. If you simply put on Google, YouTube right now where you're listening, you put eye exercises, you'll get a lot of them. But what I wanted to share was eyes, mouth, and fingers. These are all fine motor muscles. Developmentally, the bigger muscles develop before the smaller muscles take over, not take over, before the fine motor muscles. So it's important that you work on postural muscles, work on that co-contraction, work on, as I said, lie down, let the child lie down on the tummy, And then you're working on all of this vestibular work, you're adding up therapeutic listening. And once you've worked on it and you've done a good enough work for like 3, 4 months, that's when I start adding up the visual work. So I wouldn't start visual straight away in the beginning, because when you do that, you wouldn't see a great amount of change coming. And even if there's a change, it comes in the therapy, but when it comes to actual general life, child is not able to use the eyes. So what I wanted to talk about, that eyes are fine motor. You can't straight away go to fine motors. I've written about a lot of kids who look at TV. They play the TV, and if there's a what you call vegetable being cut, or if there is a if there's sand, or if there's paint, something, they start flapping their arms and they look, because they can't contain and they're not able to, take that much vestibular input, and they're not able to organize their body when they get such a lot of input. So, what am I saying? If I want that, I need an organized body. If I need an organized body, it would be a good idea that your child is maybe has a good amount of proprioceptive activity before the child engages in these kinds of activities. So maybe jumping, bouncing on a ball, creeping, crawling, and then the child sees these kinds of activities, it would be helpful. I've written some few exercises and ideas that I think would help you, but what I'm saying is this is alone not going to help. The safe and sound protocol is another protocol that also helps. So, safe and sound protocol, therapeutic listening, primitive reflex integration, strengthening the postural muscles, developing the core strength, working on that astronaut program where you're working on stimulating all the receptors. When you do all of this in the background, okay, till then, if your child is still using the visual, what we call as visual stimming, I would use bubbles. Child can blow bubbles, and that's a visual stimulus. Light is off, and you can use those, what are those called, laser lights. That's a different way of doing it. Those lanterns in Diwali that we have, and where you have those, I can't think of the word, but those dangling wiry things. So if when that moves with the air, that again is visual. Having a bulb that rotates, and you see different colors in the house, that's visual. So I can give a lot of opportunities. Having an aquarium or going to an aquarium, seeing those fishes move around here and there, that's visual. Waterfalls, watching them is visual. That's going to a beach, watching, looking at those waves come and go, that's visual. So there are a lot of other ways that I can provide that same input. So getting those kinds of kaleidoscopes, that's again visual. Okay, so on that lantern is, what are those buntings? Like buntings is what I'm talking about. So that's the word that came to my mind right now. So bubbles, blow pens, because you can see that color. Um, Creating calming bottles and seeing the movement, lava lamps, having different colored bulbs in the house. There's so much more by which you can add up that kind of a visual input at home. It's like, that helps the child, that provides that stimulation while you work on those other areas. uh Sunglasses. Now so as I said, when there is a lot of moro reflex present, the light is like, it's a bright illumination. So I tried using sunglasses with a lot of kids, but because they had face sensitivity around the face, they didn't allow sunglasses. But if your child allows, it'll be a good idea to buy them. Caps are something which are very good. Sometimes these small little things, when you add up and you see a big change. So those are some of the things that you can add up. And calming bottles, swimming pool, putting, enrolling for swimming, because when you see those water moving and you see the reflection of light on it, that is again a visual stimulation. But all of these are more what you call socially acceptable ways by which we see, okay, looking at those. So right now I see these trees which are moving, because of the wind, so the leaves. Or when you go out for a trek and you see the leaves, and you see the sky and the leaves, and you see from between, those are all the kind of things that I would encourage a child to do. Balloons, having balloons at home and playing with balloons. So those are all different ways by which I can provide visual input. Does visual stimming ever go away? Yes, it does. As you work on those other, what you call, as you provide resources to the child's body so that the child can take the visual input and organize it. If you provide those opportunities, then the need to engage into all these things reduces immensely. I have a lot of parents who tell me, he never looked at me and spoke. He used to always look on the side, but now he is able to do it. So a lot of things improve. The visual stimulation is just a it's a clue for us as therapists and for you as a parent to understand कि, oh, this is what I need to work upon. Oh, this is also something that I need to work upon. Those are the clues that the child is giving you that I need support here. And when you provide that support, does visual stimming go away? Yeah, it does. Let me know if this was helpful. And okay, before I go ahead, how long does it take for the visual stimming to go away? You need to work on integrating the moro, develop the core strength, work on the postural muscles, provide that exercises to the eyes, do the protocol where you're working on rotation, vestibular input, everything. How long does it take? It may take 1 year, it may take 2 years. It takes time for the system to get developed. It depends also on the severity of autism and the sensory processing challenge. It depends on the age of your child too. But in my experience, when I've worked with the little ones, it like within a year or so, within a year, 1.5 year, it has gotten better. When a child is very severe, yeah, it takes longer. And if the child is older, maybe 3, 4 years. So I hope this helps you to kind of understand how to deal with visual stimulations. All right. Thank you so much. Before you go, I wanted you to know about my app, autisminsights.com. Autism with an AWE. And in this app, what do you get? You get a 14-day free trial period to the foundation level. You get daily insights from my working for the last 23 years. What you see right now on YouTube, you get to meet me, hear me every day. You get my audio books, you get my recorded courses, you get my master classes. There's so much waiting for you. And I want you to experience it and grab that 14-day free trial for yourself.